Hey guys, what's going on? Tenepers here. Welcome back to the channel. So around 6 months ago, I uploaded a video to my channel essentially comparing Watchdog, which is the Hypixel anti-cheat, to AntiGamingChair, which is the anti-cheat used on my main club and on several other servers. And in the video, I basically conclude with the evidence that I showed in the video that Watchdog is a worse anti-cheat than AntiGamingChair. And obviously, not everyone was really happy with my conclusion, and I thought I'd give a little bit more information about kind of like how I got to that conclusion, and also kind of respond to some of the criticism of that video, because there is quite a bit. So to get started, let's just talk about some of the responses to my video. Now, what I didn't expect was the client developers of the client I actually used in the video to test AntiGamingChair to literally respond to the video. Obviously, I'm not going to give them free advertisement, but you could probably go figure it out. A lot of people have already seen that video, and they basically seen the video and they kind of agree with the arguments that these people are making, which I can kind of grant in some way, shape, or form, because there are a few arguments that they make which are valid. However, the overall conclusion of their entire argument is kind of, it's a little iffy. Even though that they are client developers, I do think that it's a little iffy. So just to get like a few things like completely out of the way before anyone claims that I'm claiming these things. Number one, I have never in my life claimed that AntiGamingChair is a perfect anti-cheat. There's no such thing as a perfect anti-cheat. However, I can say with pretty much 100% certainty that AntiGamingChair's anti-cheat checks ban for more cheats, number one, ban cheats quicker, number two, and are harder to bypass, number three, than Watchdog checks. Now, in the post in the Twitlonger where the hacked client developer basically responded to me, he does actually admit that AntiGamingChair is more efficient than Watchdog, which I think most people can agree with. Even people who are like really supportive of Hypixel can pretty much agree that it bans cheats faster. It's literally obvious. But let's just get into the meat of the criticism of my video comparing Watchdog and AntiGamingChair. So the main counter argument to my video was basically that I used a Hypixel styled bypass. I used Hypixel Fly on Wurst AntiGamingChair, and then I obviously showed a video of someone using it on Hypixel. And I basically showed that obviously it does bypass Hypixel. It almost instantly bans on AntiGamingChair, and it spams my chat on Wurst. Now, the criticism is basically that because I used a Hypixel styled bypass, I can't really compare the anti-cheats. But that is, even though it's a valid point, it doesn't necessarily get to the point of my video. The point of my video is simply to give an example of a fly that worked on Hypixel's Watchdog, but then also flagged and instantly banned on AntiGamingChair. Now, you might be like, oh, well, that's because the fly was just made for Hypixel, which is actually a valid criticism. It makes sense why a Watchdog-based fly would only work on Watchdog and ban on other servers. However, that does not explain the fact that I have not been able to get an AntiGamingChair fly to actually work on AntiGamingChair. Not only that, I have literally seen no AntiGamingChair fly actually work. Even if they claim they have an AntiGamingChair fly, it still actually bans you, or like at least flags. And if you bring up the fact that there's virtually no actual working AntiGamingChair flies and speeds, then the person you're arguing with will probably bring up the fact, Hypixel is a larger server, which causes more people to want to make bypasses for it, and therefore, because my main club is such a small server, no one wants to make bypasses. Number one, that's not true, because there's many developers who have actually made clients specifically for my main club. I'm not going to name them, but I can tell you right now that there's people who literally, they literally used to code themselves developing cheats specifically for AntiGamingChair. So that's just one example. Number two, there are a lot of different flies on hacked clients. Like obviously on hacked clients, there's different fly modes. There's different flies which are made for much smaller servers than my main club or AntiGamingChair. And you have to at some point acknowledge that the reason why there are no AntiGamingChair flies is because it's much more difficult to bypass AntiGamingChair than it is all these other anti-cheats. If you have a random server with like no or really bad fly check or like very little anti-cheat, obviously the client developers are going to make those bypasses a lot quicker than they're going to be able to make a bypass for it, let's say AntiGamingChair. Another thing I could see people arguing to this video is basically the idea that there's a AntiGamingChair version on, invaded lands that apparently counts as AntiGamingChair, when in reality it's actually a really old version of AGC, number one. Number two, half of the checks are literally disabled, so just because you can speed around at the speed of sound on invaded lands with your like crappy bypass does not mean at all you've actually bypassed AntiGamingChair. It literally doesn't mean anything at all. Another thing, especially with things like speed or like bhop, is like just because you're not getting banned automatically doesn't mean you're setting off a crap ton of logs and you're gonna get queued for a ban soon. You could literally bhop for 0.02 seconds on any server and bypass. The point is that you can stay a lot longer on Hypixel than you can on a lot of other servers with better anti-cheats. And in addition to everything I've said so far, another criticism or another response that some people will probably give to what I just said is, oh, well, all of the client developers just target Hypixel because obviously they make the most money off of it. Well, that doesn't really explain how the Wurst client, yes, the Wurst client from literally 2014, and a client which hasn't been updated in literally forever, at least the version that's used on Hypixel, the fly currently bypasses on Hypixel. At least it doesn't ban for at least 4 minutes. You can look up the video. You can literally look up Wurst bypassing Hypixel, and there's literally a video of someone on the Wurst client bypassing Hypixel. That client has not been updated in forever. So like, what's the excuse now? Well, they happened to target Hypixel back in 2014. No, you've had literally 5 years to be able to patch this fly. That fly will not work on AntiGamingChair. You know, that it's not just fly also. You have to also understand that, you know, there's lots of different modules where the checks on AntiGamingChair are clearly better. For example, reach. The reach check on Hypixel is simply worse than the reach check on AntiGamingChair. It's that simple. And one more final criticism I want to go over here is the whole idea that because Watchdog has to deal with multiple game modes and tons of players on the server, therefore I can't even compare the two. This is kind of valid in the sense that I can't directly say, like with an objective standard, okay, Watchdog is better or worse than AntiGamingChair. However, I can compare certain aspects of the anti-cheat that work on certain types of game modes that are very similar between MyMinClub and Hypixel. For example, the duels game mode. The duels game mode on Hypixel is almost the same as the duels game mode on MyMinClub. So if we have people flying around in the duels game mode, which there are, people using Killer and 6-block reach in the duels game mode, which they are, and people b-hopping the duels game mode, then there's nothing to say that they couldn't just implement something that is similar to what they have on AntiGamingChair on the duels game mode itself. Just because there's all these game modes that Watchdog has to deal with doesn't mean that they can't just disable and enable checks depending on what game mode someone's in. I mean, that's just like 101. Like, that should just be like a very obvious thing for them to do. Just because they have a check in Watchdog doesn't mean it needs to be on every single server. So yeah, just comparing the duels game mode anti-cheat to the MyMinClub anti-cheat is a completely, valid comparison. It's basically equivalent. So anything that you say past this, you have to literally be comparing it directly. So yeah, you can make the comparison, but you can only compare a very specific part of Hypixel's Watchdog to AntiGamingChair. So yeah, and also just one final thing, I'm going to just say this one more time. I'm not claiming AntiGamingChair has no bypasses or anything like that. All I'm saying is that it's a lot better than Watchdog, which is true. I mean, there's obviously ways to get around almost any anti-cheat if you really know what you're doing. In fact, the developer of AntiGamingChair, dewgs, has created his own bypasses for AntiGamingChair. He's aware of the bypasses, right? And obviously he goes and patches them right after, but he comes up with them and he patches them himself. So I'm not saying that there's any way to completely prevent cheaters, and I'm not saying AntiGamingChair is that solution. All I'm saying is that AntiGamingChair is a extremely efficient anti-cheat, which does a lot better job at, protecting the players on MyMinClub from blatant cheaters than something like Watchdog does. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you comment down below what your thoughts are. Do you agree with my points? Do you disagree? Do you have any counter arguments or anything? Buy my Badline Client cape. That should be the second link in the description. Join my Discord. That should be farther down. And I'll